What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Carseats Coffee. I have my man, Morgan McKell, in the house, dude. Business owner, business coach, hosting meetups, cranking, delivering, and going, and a father.
Yes.
Dude, thank you so much for jumping on the
show.
No,
I'm honored to be here. I've listened to your podcast and I literally just listened to the owner of Alpha Coffee.
Carl.
Carl.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy to be here, man. So
thanks, brother. So, before I'd be like, hey, so tell me about your kids. I do want to know about your kid, but I really want to know about Morgan as well.
Yeah. My story, I feel, is like a typical like entrepreneur story. And what I mean by that is I grew up on the East Coast. So I grew up in Virginia, and my mom remarried, and so I had a stepdad. And I just told this story to a Connect group here in Utah, so it's fresh. But my mom married Vinny. Vinny was in the Navy growing up, and he told me, he said, Morgan, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was younger, right? When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, so I had to become a pilot, and that was my course. Well, he went to the Naval Academy and everything like that, and he didn't end up being an astronaut, but he told me this: shoot for the stars. I shot for the stars. I wanted to be an astronaut, and I landed 30,000 feet above the earth. And he goes, so just shoot big, just go big. And so it all started when I was in high school, actually. And when I was in high school, I saw my buddies working at McDonald's and Burger King. No shame to those things. But I wanted to mow lawns. And I started mowing lawns. And I realized I could make more money than my friends. And I chose my hours. And I said, why isn't everyone doing this? Like that's a novel concept, right? And I could just crank out lawns on the weekend and have way more money. Don't have to answer to a boss. I enjoyed doing it. Next thing you know, I had I had like more of a business partner. A buddy and mine were just cranking out lawns. We bought a trailer, we bought all this equipment, and next thing you know, we're making like thousands of dollars during our summer in high school. On our own business. It was called The Right Guys Lawn Care, right? It was cool.
Love this.
And that was my real first taste of entrepreneurship, of entrepreneurism, and owning your own business and working for yourself and not someone else. And one of the things I learned about Morgan is I never liked the word work. I was always scared of it for some reason. Like if someone said that's hard, that's tough, that's work, dude, I did not want to be there. But what I realized as I got older is that freedom was my why. Freedom was the thing that really drove me to be an entrepreneur. So what I mean by that is I had crappy jobs, man. I've worked at Walmart. I've worked at Kmart. I've done like random things. I've been a sales guy my whole life. And then I had a buddy of mine, and we moved back to Utah. I got married. I'm divorced now. I have a kid. And anyways, I was going through a divorce, and one of my really good buddies from childhood, he called me up and said, dude, I have this business idea. And I was like, all right, hit me with it. And he's like, we're going to fix phones. And I was like, what? And this is like 8 years ago, right? Like I didn't even know you could fix a phone. No one knew that you could fix a phone. There was like 2 of us in the valley.
Sure.
And he's like, we're going to fix phones. I saw someone doing it, and I wondered if he wanted to do it with me, and he doesn't. So it's all you, Morgan. And I was like, all right. So I had like a 1990 Nissan ZX, like a really cool race car.
Oh, yeah.
And I sold it, and I was like, I got my money. And I think he had like student loans, and he's like, I got my money. And dude, we opened up this 700 square foot retail space that really wasn't retail. It was like office. It was like an office space.
Sure.
We made it retail. And his background, he was a purchasing manager. His name's Casey Kelly. He's a really cool guy and one of my best friends. And he was a purchasing agent manager for a really cool company here in Utah. I won't say their name. And anyways, he had these connections to China and where Apple was coming out of. So we started a cell phone repair company, man. And
why not?
And dude, like the first phone we fixed, I remember as we were like getting the building ready, I was like in the back while we were putting drywall up. I remember like learning on an iPhone 3GS, like taking it apart and putting it together. And then that was right when the iPhone 4s were coming out. And so I started picking that apart. But anyways, our first month we did 10 grand. We did 10K our first month. And we looked at each other and we said, dude, we did it. And we had no idea about business. We were two like young tattooed punk ass kids, and we hired all our friends and eventually fired all our friends. And we did all the bad things in business. We did really good things. We grew and everything like that. And we grew in credit, and we had to open stores, and then we closed stores. And then finally we met a business mentor, and he had like a double MBA from like BYU, and he knew business. And he comes in, he's like, okay, children, like, this is let's talk business, right?
It's been fun, kids.
It's been fun, but let's tighten up the processes. And it was really good. And that story, Casey really was the leader in IQ. I tell everyone that Casey was the face of IQ. Casey was the guy who really led that. And I stepped away for a couple of years even. And I came back, and then I led teams doing marketing, and I led teams doing sales and things like that. And Casey knew the connections, and we eventually sold to $1 billion company last year. That was really cool. We actually got these, like those big 3-foot checks. We handed those out to people, and that was really cool. So anyways, that's where I came from. And now I own 3 businesses currently. They're all very different. We were just talking about that before, but and that's who I am. I live up in Syracuse. I just barely moved there. I live down in Lehigh, and I told you I was divorced, and so my son, he lives way up north with his mom, and I live way down in Lehigh, and I was like, that's not gonna work. I was like, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. And
so I moved closer to him. I'm up in Syracuse, and I've only been there for about 2 months, and I love it. It's nice. Cool. It's like way less traffic than Lehigh, Utah.
Sure.
So that's what I do, man. I do business. I have a kid, and I just try to like live life hard. Like I live life hard, brother.
I love that, dude. So let's talk about that. Give me a little backstory about your kid. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So I used to be religious. I'm not anymore. I'm not trying to talk about that or anything, but I came home from an LDS mission, right? Got married 6 weeks later.
Okay.
All right. 6 weeks goes by. I'm married. Morgan's like, we got to do this. And got married, and like 2 months after, she was pregnant. And so we had a kid like straight away. I was super young, just got back from a mission. I think there's reasons why I got divorced, it's just all those things. And so then I had my Jet, and I remember when I was 14 years old, I had a dream that I had a kid named Jet when I was 14.
Really?
And so when we had Jet, I told her as soon as she was pregnant, it's like, we're naming him Jet. And I knew it was a boy. I just knew it was.
Sure.
And she was like, well, what if it's a girl? And I'm like, it's not, it's a boy, and his name's Jet, and Jett.
Yeah, love that.
And anyway, so that's my little Jet boy, and he's super rad. He's super cool. He's like my best friend. As they get older, they become like built-in best friends. We go fishing and have pizza parties and stuff like that. So it's really fun. So, and he lives with his mom, and she's remarried, and so he has 2 dads. I had 2 dads growing up, and so that was a hard conversation, but yeah, that's my son. He's 10. He'll be 10 in March.
Really?
So
that's gotta be such a fun age, dude.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
Like when you first have kids, they're super easy. Everyone thinks they're really hard, and not for me. It was like I could put them in their car seat and rock them with my foot while I played Modern Warfare 2. You know what I mean? Like, like it was super easy. They cried, give them a bottle. They needed to change them real quick, but they just stayed. Then as they start crawling and walking, that was the hard age. It was like into everything. And now I can't play my games because he's like going by the stairs, and you know what I mean? Like they got harder, and then they level off, and then they got easier again, and they started becoming like your friend, and they have a personality and stuff like that. So, but yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So how did you know? You said like, I just knew it was a boy. Like, talk to me about that.
I had a dream, dude. I was 14 years old. I'll never forget it. I had a dream, and I knew that I was going to have a son. Just I just knew. And so I knew it was a boy, and I knew his name was Jet. And so I didn't care who I was going to marry. I was always going to tell him that we're going to have a boy, and his name's Jet. Like, that's just what it is. And she got pregnant, and I was like, it's a boy. And she's like, what if it's not? I'm like, it's not. It's a boy. And we got the ultrasound back, and like, it's a boy. And I was like, I know. And she didn't love the name at first. Like, she didn't really like the name.
Sure.
And I warmed her up to it, and then next thing you know, it's like, he couldn't be anything else.
Yeah.
He's like Jet.
And you're like, and listen, by the way, in my dream, he was Jet, so he's going to be Jet?
Yeah, I was like...
Because it was a dream.
I was like, it was a dream.
What, are you going to deny a dream?
You want dreams to come true? Or like, you want to ruin my dreams? Yeah. So, no, she was lovely, and my ex-wife's actually a really great mom, and she went with it, and now he's our little Jet boy, so...
So, at what point, if you don't mind me asking, like, did you guys get divorced, and did you start doing that shared custody?
Oh, dude. It was it was crazy. And I'll touch briefly on that is we got in a really bad habit in our marriage where we would argue and she would go to her mom's. That was like the worst thing ever. And so we were married for 4 years, but we probably were apart longer than we were together.
Okay.
Because that one night turned into 2 nights. That 2 nights turned into a week turned into a month turned into 3 months eventually. And I was like, what are we doing? You know, and so, yeah, so we were married a total of like 4 years, I think just shy of 4 years. We got a divorce. And honestly, just to be completely honest, I was like a terrible dad. Like I was like real bad. Like I was living with my parents at the time, like when we were going through divorce, and it was really hard for me to be like responsible. I know that sounds so bad, but it's just what it was. And so I had to really learn like through everything how to be a dad and like what that meant. And so I lived with my parents, and so like my kid would come, and it was so easy to be like, hey mom, will you watch Jet? And she would just watch him, you know, and even though I was there, it was just, I had my parents watch him a lot. And then there was like this moment in my life where I really had to like reconstruct my life. And I realized I wasn't anything who I wanted to be. I wasn't anywhere where I wanted to be. And I went through some massive changes, and it started with me, and then it became really well sharing that custody and being like, oh, okay, now I'm on my own, and, you know, I got my own place and blah, blah, blah. And then really knowing what it means to be a dad. And I think I've had to grow into being a dad. You know, obviously there's no manual, and and you're just kind of thrown into it. And I was young and dumb and stupid, I feel, in a lot of different ways. I don't feel like I was super educated. I never went to like college, and I was just trying to make it up as I went. And I really had to grow into being like the dad for Jet that I am today. And now we have a great relationship, and I think I'm an awesome dad, and people tell me I'm an awesome dad, so that feels good too. Sure. So, but I remember when he was younger, going through a divorce and going through like owning a company, like there's so much that goes into it where I just wasn't there.
Sure.
A lot, honestly. And he was super young. And, you know, and she and my ex dealt with it, and you know, and hats off to her. You know, really, she's been super mom since day one. But I really had to grow into learning how to like share custody, and then when she got remarried, and she's remarried and has a kid, and relearning how to be like, oh yeah, there's a stepdad, and he takes care of my kid too now, and you know, going through all of that. But yeah, I have my kid all the time. I actually pick him up tomorrow, and super stoked for that. But it took years to get to a really comfortable spot with my ex where we could just communicate. It took years of being like, I could call my ex right now and be like, hey, can I come grab Jet early? And she'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Or, hey, I need Jet for the week. Oh yeah, cool, yeah, like no problem. Like it's so fluid. It's not like, well, this is what the court documents say. It's nothing like that. But that took time. The first 2 years after divorce, oh dude, it was like hellfire and brimstone. It was like the third ring of hell. You know what I mean? Like it was real hard to even talk about, hey, can I get Jet, without this huge fiasco. So
dude, would you just like those moments that you were away from him? I mean, obviously, I'm gonna be straight up, dude. It's nice to have a break from our kids every once in a while.
Oh dude, 100%. I think everyone needs that.
But I think that's a very different situation, right? So when you would like, when you drop him off or whatever, is that like really hard on you now, or was it like
the hardest
back then? Or
no? So like even the breaks, and I'm in a relationship right now, and she has a daughter, and she has her daughter full time, and I don't have my son full time at all, and so I can see just how much harder it is to have a kid full time. The last time I had him full time was 6 years ago, when me and his mom still lived together, and but dropping him off and stuff, I never feel like, oh, I need a break. That doesn't exist for me right now. What does break my heart is when I'm taking him home and he's like, Dad, I don't want to go home. Dad, why can't I spend more time with you? Why can't I see you more? And I'm like, oh, it just breaks your heart, and you're just like, oh, I do, and I want to see you more, and so that's more of the hard thing. But I've never been like overwhelmed with Jet. Even in the summer when I've had him for weeks, and it sounds so crappy, like, oh, I had him for a couple of weeks.
No, not at all.
Even that, like, I've never been overwhelmed with Jet. I've put a lot, I can say this confidently, like when I became a great dad and over the years of really putting in the work in Jet, he's really disciplined. And he's a great kid. He's honestly just a great kid. And so he's not like this like little hellion that just, these horror stories of kids that you hear about.
Sure.
He's just really well behaved, and we have a great relationship. And so it's always like really fun hanging out with him, with me. He's a kid and he like gets in trouble sometimes, but it's a kid,
Sure.
But he's really well behaved. So
kind of talking about that, you said when you decided to become a good dad.
Yeah, there's
kind of walk that.
Yeah.
With me.
Oh man, we're gonna get real, Tom.
Dude, let's
Is that
do
cool?
it. Yeah, let's do it, brother. This is what we want to hear.
So in my company, the cell phone repair company, dude, there came a moment when they did a cash call, and Morgan didn't have it. I didn't have my cash, and so I diluted my Class A shares to Class B shares. And Casey, my business partner at the time, he bought them from me, and so he gave me good money for it and honored me in that. And I got super depressed. On top of that, going through a divorce, right? So I did something stupid, and I tried hurting myself. And I ended up in the hospital for a week, and I was like this super low point, and I moved back in with my parents, and that's why I moved back in with my parents. And this is when I feel I just wasn't there emotionally for anybody for like probably like 6 months to a year. I was just like dead on the inside. It just felt like that. And there was this moment in my life where I just left everything and I moved to California, and I just restarted, and I consciously chose, this is how I'm going to live my life now. I'm going to live my life happy. I want to be a good person. I want to do what makes me happy, and I'm not going to worry about the judgments of others, because it might sound cliche, but have you ever heard it's you against you? Mm-hmm. That's really what happened. It was like, screw everyone else right now. I need to get Morgan right, and I want to know what Morgan's capable of. Like, it was like this really 50-foot view of myself of saying, you want to be a great dad. You want, who cares if you have Class B, you're still an owner in that, and go do whatever the heck that makes you happy, and go be that entrepreneur again, and be a great dad. And I was like, heck yeah, I moved back to Utah with a completely different attitude and mindset on life, 100%. And that was like 2014, 2015, I want to say, probably 2015, when I moved back to Utah, and my whole life changed. It was just a mental battle that I had to go through. And I remember, I used to be on, when I hurt myself, I was seeing the doctor, and I was on like antidepressants, and I had insomnia, and like all sorts of weird stuff. And I'm not on any of that now. Literally, it was like this really hard moment of my life where I felt like I hit rock bottom. I lost my company. It felt like, and I didn't. It was perspective. And I lost my company. I was going through a divorce. I wasn't seeing Jet and my son. And I said, no more. I said, I'm fucking done. I said, I'm freaking done. And it all changed. It all changed. And I decided consciously, I'm going to be the best dad I can. And so I started taking Jet out, and I had to prove to Natalie that I was a good dad, and I was responsible, and I took care of him and things like that. And just since then, we're rocking and rolling. We're cooking with gas now,
You just put in that work.
I had to, and it wasn't like this, and it wasn't like that moment got me going. But you're right, it was like step after step. It was continually doing the hard thing. I just taught some people about discipline, and even discipline being a dad. And if your son is waking up in the middle of the night and gets out of bed after they come from a crib, say they've been in a crib and you just move them to a bed and they get out of bed every night. It's like that discipline of like sitting outside their room and saying, no, go back to bed. You know what I mean? It's hard. You don't want to do it. You want to be in bed, but to teach them the discipline, you're consciously choosing the hard.
Yes.
And I think that is what happened with me being a dad, is like, I'd get home from work and I'd go pick up Jet and I'd be dead. And I'd be like, no, I want to like redeem my time with him. You know what I mean? Let's go to the park. Or like, let's go do this. Let's do an activity. Let's paint. Let's draw. Let's play Xbox. Whatever it is, rather than being like, oh, here's Netflix and go have fun. It was, let's go do an activity, and how's your heart? Tell me about your day, and things like that. And that was hard. That is hard. It's still hard today. It's harder than ever right now. But my mindset has been so changed and so refined that I don't look at it as hard anymore. It's just part of my life now. But if you would have told me this 10 years ago, I'd been like, what? I do what and then do what? That sounds really hard.
Yes.
But it's putting in the work, man. And it's day after day after day. And even calling him, and maybe you don't even think about this because you live with your kids, but I have it in my phone to like consciously try to call my son throughout the week to be able to talk to him, to be like, hey, how was your day at school? And how's this? And, for his birthday, I bought him an iPod so I can text him now. And we text on Facebook Messenger and, and we have that cool relationship. So
I love this, dude.
But it was putting in work 100%. Dude, being a dad, being a dad can be easy if you're not like a father, if that makes sense. Like anyone.
I was gonna say, don't start bullshitting the audience here. Like it's not easy all the time.
What I'm trying to say is like it's easy to be a sperm donor, but what makes like a real dad and father is like hard work. It was like hard work.
Yeah.
It's like fighting for your kid's heart, and being there for him and showing him what hard work is and discipline, all those things that we know. But yeah, it's hard being there. It's exhausting. It's tiring, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
You look on the other end, and dude, I've had some magical experiences with Jet. I took him to Disneyland for the first time. He'd never been, and I'd been, a lot of times, and I took him there, and it was right as they switched over for the Christmas season. And so we're standing on Main Street Disneyland, and the fireworks are going off at night, right? And it's like Christmas, and there's the big tree, and he just like puts his arm around me, and he pulls me in, and he goes, "Thanks, Dad. This is magical." And I was just like, well, this is why I do what I do. Like, this is it.
Dude, and didn't make any other, all the work, all the pain, everything, it just goes away.
It was just gone. It was just completely gone.
Yeah.
And
I love that, dude.
So, yeah, we've had, like, magical times together, and I love that. And, I got to take him to Universal, too. And he's, like, my little roller coaster buddy, and he just goes on every ride with me. And he's like a built-in best friend. I get him tomorrow, and I'm legitimately stoked to like hang out with my buddy tomorrow. You know what I mean?
So good.
Like I'm picking him up from school, and we're just gonna like go have fun, and
love that.
Do fun things.
So in your normal, like when you say that we're gonna go do fun things, like what are the things that you just enjoy the most with him?
Yeah. So it just depends. Like since it was just Halloween, we went to like a corn maze, and we went and saw like the petting zoo, and I take him to like the dinosaur museums and the aquariums. Like those are really fun. Those can be pricey though, we all know that, and that's just, part of the game, but I'd rather invest in that than stupid things. But like a normal fun night for us is, dude, we love playing Xbox together. Dude, we throw down on some Xbox and we get pizza. We have like a pizza party and a movie night. Like that's like our go-to. And then other than that, it's like going to the park and like, we like to go walk around weird places. So like we like to walk around Shields because there's like cool things there. We like to walk around Cabela's because there's like really cool things there.
Sure. And
that doesn't cost anything,
Yeah.
It's just doing cool things. Like I take them up camping, we go fishing. This last August, we went up to Tibble Fork.
Okay.
And it was freezing cold water. Dude, like freezing cold water. And like he'll jump in with me. Like just to do hard things with me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And,
yes.
and so we have a lot of fun, man. And we typical dude stuff, camping
Absolutely.
And hunting and shooting and all of that stuff. So
no, I love that, man. And I think nowadays we hear this message a lot, like, you got to make sure that you're emotionally just supporting your kids. Yes, I get it. But also emotionally supporting your kids is getting them to do hard things.
Oh yeah.
So that when they're ready to go out, because we know what happens, bro.
Oh, dude.
Life will slap the crap out of you.
Dude.
And it doesn't care, and it's not going to hold you and tell you everything's all right, and it's going to go full at you. So, like, people laugh at me because I do stuff like that too, like Big Cottonwood here. I get in the creek when it's like snow on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? I'm pushing myself because then when life actually pushes on me, it's not that big of a deal.
Oh,
because it does. Pushes on you hard. And I love doing those little things right now with my boys. Like once it starts snowing, like let's go outside, take our shoes off and walk around in the snow. And and they'll for a little bit and then, Dad, it's so cold. No, yeah, feel it, and go back in. Some people listen and they're like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
but it's like, this is the kind of stuff that it's just like, it's letting them know that life's not always comfortable. Like, because dude, when they look around, sometimes they're like, oh, my parents got money, they're taking me here, we're doing these things. And I don't want them to believe that any of the success that their mom and I are creating has anything to do with the success that they need to create for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, speaking to my soul right now, just because being uncomfortable creates so many great byproducts, right? Like mental toughness and there's so much that goes into it. And yes, as someone that, that's successful and that you can take care of your kids, how do you teach them the meaning of hard work? And I think that's really big. And how do you teach them how to be disciplined and delayed gratification and those type of things? And those come into play. Because one of my biggest fears, I have one and done. I had one kid and I was done. You know, obviously I was married, but I was done. I didn't want any more kids. And because I have a fear of like everything that's messed up in here, I didn't want to put on someone else. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I didn't want to raise a kid the wrong way. And so it was like terrifying to me. And so, yeah, as we're talking about that, you know, I'm being uncomfortable and doing those hard things. It's like, I have to teach that person that. I can't rely on like the world teaching your son or your daughters about those things. Like you have to teach them those. And so I would say don't forget that, because I make him jump in freaking cold water with me, like up at Tibble Fork. Like he jumped in and like we sat in there and he was shivering and I'm shivering and we got out and we laughed about it and he had the best time of his life. And he didn't want to do that. Or, you know, even, you know, I just moved to Syracuse, so he's helping me move. And he's like moving these boxes and he's like, Dad, it's too heavy. I'm like, buddy, get it, like
get at it,
like
son.
come on, get at it, son. And he made it. He struggled. He like struggled, but he made it. And then he got down and said, I knew you could do it. He looked at me and he just smiled. And I was like, yeah, you know too, dude. And it's just pushing him and
then you see them walk with a little more swagger too. They have their head up a little more when they're going to that next box. Like, I got you now, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, love that.
And you got to teach them that. You know, you got to teach them that. And that's something I feel that I had to learn that too, because it was so easy. Dude, it's so easy being mediocre, bro. Oh. It's so easy being a mediocre worker, being a mediocre parent, being a mediocre boyfriend or husband. It's so easy, but it makes your life really hard. But it's so easy.
There,
you know what I mean?
There it is. But it's actually harder in the long run. It's
actually harder.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that.
Right.
Dude, I wasn't born this way. I built myself this way, right? You know what I mean? I wasn't born this way. I built. Everything you say today is like ground level up. And oh man, I lost my thought what I was going to say.
Oh, dude, it doesn't even, I'm so fired up on what you just said right there, dude. Like,
mediocre being easy. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So it's so easy just to be mediocre. So like when I was a younger dad, it's so easy to be like, here's an iPad. I'm going to do this, you do that. What do you want for dinner? Let's order out. Rather than like, I cook with my son now. Like there's a difference in that. And setting the table. Dude, I was a bachelor in a little bungalow a long time ago, you know? And we used to like eat on the couch and I used to like eat pizza. You know, it wasn't bad or whatever, but we used to get takeout and we just like eat at the couch. And now it's like, let's go cook together and like set a placemat. And it might not be like the most time awesome thing to do, but like you're putting in this work to show them like, let's make dinner together at least, and like this is family time, and it's just those little things, and it's not the easiest, but it's the most rewarding thing, because now you're just setting these standards for your son or your daughters that I think are really important. I think dinner time and family time is important, and teaching them how to cook is important in a world where everything is at our fingertips and we can order everything. I want to go on a date, swipe right. I want to watch a movie, log into Netflix. I want dinner, I press order for takeout. You know what I mean? To teach them like, hey, you can create this and make this, and we have dinner together now. And just those little things add up that I think teach your children some of the right things that they need to know.
Absolutely, dude. I love this.
Yeah.
I seriously love this, man, because it's a lot of dads need to hear this message. Because what you said earlier too, and one of the things I'm working really hard on is we got our day jobs, man. We got our side hustles. We got a million things going on, right? And it's so easy to say, I'm just too tired right now. I'm just too tired right now. And are you tired? Yes. But over time, if you say, you know what, mind? You need to shut the hell up right now.
Yeah.
Because my kid doesn't care if I'm tired.
Yep.
My kid cares about one thing. Am I there and am I present with them? So at the end of the day, I think if you can keep doing that and say, yeah, I'm tired, but we're cooking tonight, son.
Heck
yeah, I'm tired, but we're getting on the floor, we're building something with your Legos. Yeah, I'm tired, but I'm make-believing. My boys love playing cops right now, and we're chasing each other around. Dude, and there's some times I'm like, I genuinely feel like I could lay down and sleep right now. But if I do that, if I just lay around, or I'm like, yo, do your thing and go watch Netflix and stuff, they remember this. They're not, I can tell them work, grind, get at it, But what are they going to see? They see the actions. They learn a lot more from our actions, brother.
Oh, for
you
sure.
You know what? So it's time to put on the robber outfit and let these little cops chase me around. You know?
You just reminded me of this experience I had about 4 years ago, I want to say. Probably like 4 years ago. Jet, my son, was watching YouTube videos, right? Like just kid YouTube videos. And I was like, Jet, let's go play outside. And let's like get off YouTube and go play outside. And he looked at me and he says, why? You watch YouTube? And I was like, oh, arrow to the heart. I was like, oh my gosh, like you watch me, you watch everything that I do. And and I think what you were saying is leading by example, you know, and and they're gonna be a little clone of you. Whatever you decide to do and whatever time you invest in them, they're gonna learn that. That's terrifying and beautiful at the same time.
Right? So. Yeah. Because we're gonna do something. Let's not kid ourselves. We're gonna do something that our kids are gonna be like, my dad did this, messed me up. You know, sitting in, hopefully not in therapy, but you never know. They're going to be like, he did this. He sat on YouTube way too much. Or something, you know what I mean? Doing their thing. But, dude,
He made me jump in cold water.
I've never been warm since.
I've never. I can't take cold showers now. I have PTSD now.
He froze my heart. I absolutely love this episode, brother. I want to, really quick, before we jump off, with some advice for the next young Morgans that are coming in and going to have kids maybe young or you know, have to do it, feel like they're doing it on their own.
Oh, okay.
What advice do you have for them?
This would be my advice, which would be, A, you're not alone. I can't tell you how many times I felt like no one understood my feelings or no one knew my situation or no one knew the pain I was going through. When in reality, when I started reaching out and asking for help, there was many people in the same boat as me, in the same boat that, you know, were recently divorced and had terrible feelings and they didn't know how to parent or they didn't know these things. And so advice would be ask for help and do it now. Don't delay that. And if you're struggling or if you need help, even accountability partner, go on play dates with someone and be that type of dad. One of the huge proponents of what I do in my life is it's through action. And every excuse, even though you said I'm too tired, it made me think of Jocko Willink. And it's a lie. Every excuse that you have in your head right now is a lie. I'm too tired. Lie. I don't have support. Lies. I don't have time. Big lie. You know, there's just all these little excuses. And so through action, you'll achieve anything you want. You will. And I don't care if you do it crappy, you'll get way further ahead in anything, parenting, business, career, just by doing it rather than not doing it. You'll get way further in life. And then course correct along the way. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect time, the perfect opportunity. Just suck at it and go forward and you'll figure it out. I promise you that. Promise.
Dude, I love this.
Yeah.
Jet, I know you're gonna be listening to this one day, dude. Your dad's crushing it, doing an amazing job.
Thank you, sir.
Privileged to not only have you on the show, but to know you personally.
Yes.
Dude, thank you so much.
It's the same, man. I see you crushing it too, and I love everything you're doing, man. And I'm excited to see where you go.
So. Yeah, right on, brother.